Boys and girls are here again to read Chapter 5 out of Gifted Hands, the Ben Carson Story by Dr. Ben Carson with Greg Lewis and Deborah Shaw Lewis, and that's me. Chapter 5, A Change and Not for the Better. Halfway through Ben's 8th grade year, the Carsons moved back into their old house on Deacon Street. His mother had finally reached the goal she had set years before. The house was small, but it felt like home. The entire Carson family, it was a huge dream come true. But it meant that Ben had to change schools again. Leaving his friends at Wilson Junior High, he became the new kid at Hunter Junior High School. Ben was still one of the brightest kids in his class, but unlike the students at Wilson, his classmates didn't seem to care that he was smart. They cared more about who dressed smart. And the in look was expensive Italian knit shirts, silk pants, alligator shoes, and stingy brim hats. Ben's mother had no money for such things. At Wilson, the other students had respected Ben because of his intelligence. To be respected at Hunter, you had to dress right, play basketball, and learn how to cap people. Capping meant you said something funny, but critical, to get the better of someone. His first few weeks at Hunter Junior High, Ben served as a favorite target for the other boys to cap on. He was new, and his clothing was definitely not in. "Know what the Indians did with General Custer's worn-out clothes?" one boy asked. Tell us," another exclaimed. "They saved 'em for our man Carson here." "Sure looks like it," chimed in a third boy. "Get close enough and you'll believe it, 'cause they smell like they're 100 years old," the first boy said to finish off capping. For several weeks, Ben took this kind of abuse quietly. He didn't know what to do to make friends with his new classmates. What's wrong with me, Ben wondered. Why do I have to be different? Then he decided that the best way to survive capping was to become the best capper. Ben thought, "You want a cap? I can show you how to cap." The next day, Ben was ready when a 9th grader started in. "Man, that shirt you're wearing has been through World War I, World War II, and World War III, and World War IV. "Yeah," Ben answered, "and your mama wore it." The students standing around all laughed, even the boy who had started the capping. He slapped Ben on the back and said, "Hey, that's okay." It didn't take long for the crowd to direct their attention elsewhere. They quickly learned when they started capping on this new kid, he always had a response to top their remarks. Ben was thankful for the relief, but he still didn't fit in at his new school. The kids at Hunter seemed to think that if you were poor, you were worthless. I have a picture in the book of Ben when he was a teenager. Ben knew that his family was still poor, even though they were back in their own home. From time to time, Ben's family received food stamps from the government. Without that help, Ben's mother would not have been able to pay the other bills. But Ben didn't want anybody to know his family used food stamps. So when he went to the grocery store to buy milk or bread, he would carefully watch the checkout area to be sure no one from school was around to see him. If someone he recognized walked in while he was standing in line, he would pretend he had forgotten something way back in the back of the store and waited there until the coast was clear. Every time he left the house with food stamps in his pocket, he was worried that someone would see him use them, and then they would know that he was poor. By the start of 10th grade, Ben thought his clothes were his biggest handicap in life. More than anything, he wanted to dress like the in group at school, and he argued with his mother about it. "Benny," said his mother, "what you wear doesn't make any difference." "But everyone's going to laugh at me," he responded. "Only stupid people laugh at someone because of their clothes," his mother answered. "Just because someone dresses better than you does not make them better." Almost every day, Ben begged his mother for new clothes. Ben knew he was disappointing his mother with his attitude, but he wanted desperately to be a part of the in crowd. Instead of coming home from school and doing his homework, Ben started staying on the playground, shooting hoops, and hanging out with the other guys. Soon his grades slipped from A's to B's and then to C's. Even though he became one of the gang with his poor grades, the popular crowd still didn't accept him. Ben just wanted to be cool, so he begged his mother to buy him an Italian knit shirt, if nothing else. Sonia Carson let Ben know how disappointed she was to hear what he was saying. After all, she thought she had raised him to be different, not the kind of person who always has to do the same thing everyone else is doing. She told him he was too smart to fall for the latest fad and to follow people who weren't using their brains. Ben told her all he was asking for, all it would take to make him happy, was one Italian knit shirt. That's when his mother made him a deal. "Okay, I'll bring home all the money I make next week, and I will turn it over to you. You'll be in charge of the family finances. You can buy the groceries and pay the bills and take care of all the necessities. Whatever you have left over at the end of the week is yours. You can spend it on an Italian knit shirt if you want to." Oh, wow! This was going to be great, Ben thought. He bought the groceries and then began going through the other bills. He ran out of money long before everything had been paid. He suddenly realized that his mother, with her 3rd grade education, had to be some kind of genius just to keep food on the table and any kind of clothes on his back. He had been complaining and asking her to buy him a $75 shirt when she brought home only $100 every week, working her fingers to the bone, scrubbing other people's floors and cleaning other people's toilets. How could I have been so selfish, he thought. Ben started studying again, and his grades went back up to A's. Some of his classmates laughed and called him nerd or Poindexter, but he was determined not to let it bother him anymore. Besides, he could always shut up the teasers and tormentors by saying one thing: "Let's see what I'm doing in 20 years, and then we'll see what you're doing in 20 years. Ben not only had a dream, he had a plan for getting there, and the people around him knew it. Only one major problem stood in the way of his reaching his dream. And that's the end of chapter 5. Thank you, boys and girls.